Good evening, everybody. Nights, it's so wonderful that you could join us on this late afternoon of 4:30. I'm Dr. Sharon Kalkuski over here at Shadow Hills High School. We have with us this evening for our Knights Parent University three-part presentation, Mrs. Mary Alexander, who is our ASB director. And I love your Christmas tree in the background, Mrs. Alexander. That's lovely, especially at this time of the evening. Twinkling lights. We have with Mrs. Alexander her two ASB students who've been in with Knights for 4 years, and they're going to talk about everything WASC. I have Devin Dean. Please give us a wave, Devin. Good to see you. Thank you, sir. And Angela Torres. It's wonderful to see you. Give us a wave. And I see we have two other students who are going to join us, so I'm going to add them to the stream. We have, and help me if I pronounce this incorrectly, but Sarai Sasina.
Sarai.
Sarai. Oh, that's beautiful. You say it so beautifully, Mrs. Alexander. Thank you. And then is it Marjorie? Did I say your name correctly, Marjorie?
Yes, it's Marjorie.
Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Knights, we have a three-part presentation this evening. It's probably going to take just shy of an hour. Our first 15 minutes approximately, we're going to have our ASB team present about what it was like to prepare for our WASC. And I'm going to do a little bit of overview of what the WASC was all about and share that with our parent nation. After that, we're going to have Ms. Karen Hernandez, who will share with us about iReady. Everything iReady, one of these very pivotal instrumental assessments for our students here at Shadow Hills High School. And then finally, myself, I'm going to present about the hybrid transition for our students here at Shadow Hills High School. So I'm talking and I'm kind of clicking at the same time. So what I'm going to do right now is put us into the waiting room while I go ahead. Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to click you away here for a second. Move you from the stream, Marjorie, I'm going to remove you. And there you go. And Angela, I'm just going to put you in the side there. And hello again, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share with you the presentation we have. And this is on our WASC. So if you could give me and help me out here, Mrs. Alexander, just kind of thumbs up. Can you see my presentation on the screen? Perfect. Fantastic. So we just had our WASC visit, and we had lots of things to celebrate. Our Western Association, this is what WASC stands for, Western Association of Schools Committee. We had the visiting committee here November 30th through December 2nd, a team of administrators and teachers from around California who came virtually to our school and saw all things great at Shadow Hills. What they do is they provide us with feedback on two instrumental questions. And those are, how do we know that all of our students, all of our Knights students are achieving based on our school-wide student goals and academic standards? All of these measures and things that we put in place when we meet and we committee and we look at panorama survey and we determine what is the best next step for our Knights. The second question, is the school doing everything possible? And those are the critical words. Are we doing everything possible to support high achievement for all of our Knights students? So based upon these two questions, we had this group of teachers, as I said, led by a very veteran administrator who came in and they examined our school for a week. Our areas to celebrate, they gave us feedback, they went into classrooms. As we're going to talk about here in a moment, the students were interviewed, they're prepared, and we came up with 3 data points of areas to celebrate. Shadow Hills High School does an excellent job of reaching out to staff, community students, the governing board, and families, one of which the ways is through Knights Parent University. This evening, we are trying something new. One of our points is to make sure that we are presenting in English and Spanish for our native Spanish-speaking families. So on the bottom here, we have a phone number to please call in, and Mr. Nathan Ray Kramer, who's a district employee, has translated for us the same presentation that I'm giving in English here. And if you call that number that's scrolling on the bottom and put that password in, families, you can hear this presentation in Spanish. A second area to celebrate, our WASC committee said that the staff and community members understand and they use uniform procedures to address key issues in organizational and structures. All that means is that we're all in line. People are communicating with one another. If we're not, we're feeling safe and asking somebody for clarification on something. And we have procedures and we have systems in place to make sure that the students' needs are being met and communicated with parents. And our third area to celebrate is that training, professional development. That means for teachers, staff, and students are aware. If they're going into the world, when I was a high school student, I didn't know what professional development meant. Well, these kids know their teachers are trained and that it's helped to improve student achievement. Most notably, we have a 35% increase in graduates who are A to G compliant. I'm going to pause here, and I'm not going to talk about our areas to focus on yet. Areas to focus, that just means our growth areas. That means the committee came and they said, these are the 3 data points that we're taking away, and we want you as a school and a team and teachers and community to focus on and improve. But I want to pause here, and I want to have our students, who I'm going to bring back on the screen, please share what it was like these past few years when they kept hearing the words, the acronym WASC, 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 to prepare and then finally to visit with the committee. So I'm going to take a moment here, stop sharing my screen, and bring on back, first of all, their amazing ASB teacher and director, Mrs. Alexander. And I'm bringing on all of our students. I love the wave. And here's Mr. Fardo. Hi, sir.
Hi, everybody.
Good to see you. And I'm going to bring back Miss Hernandez because she was our teacher at that time. And so she could speak even, not to put you on the spot, Miss Hernandez, but from the teacher point of view. But take it away, Miss Alexander. What were some of the things you asked the students, your ASB students, to do to prepare for our WASC visit?
Well, one of our biggest challenges was making sure that all of the students, not just leadership students, knew what WASC was and what it meant for our school. So that's kind of where we got thinking. Is the students started by having Mr. Wells come into our Renaissance class. And it was really my Renaissance students who took the lead on this. Last January, I believe that we started this. And Mr. Wells came in and did a presentation with our Renaissance class, and he taught the kids all about what WASC meant and what it meant to our school for this last school year. And so after he presented, the kids, I kind of put into the kids' court to make the decision, how should we get this information out to your student body? What would be a good way to present this? Do we want to, use social media? Do we want to go around and do, fireside chats in classrooms? Do we want to put posters up? And my Renaissance leaders definitely were like, let's do videos. Let's create a news segment that we put out. And our school we now have a news segment that we've been kind of putting together this fall since we're at a distance. But otherwise, we just had daily announcements that we would read, during fourth period every day. So I think, Devin, you were an instrumental piece of this, and he was the host of our WASC TV. And so the kids created the slogan, they created the name, we had a logo for it that one of our teachers, our graphics teacher, Mr. Craig Taylor, designed with the kids. They sat down together and they said, this is the vision we have for this logo. And then they broke down an 8-week segment of 8 segments that would introduce what WASC is. And I think Devin, I'll kind of pass it on to you because you were a big piece of that. And then I can kind of chime in and jump in as well on how they developed. One of the things, unfortunately, that did happen, and I'm sure Devin will kind of talk more about that as well, is COVID happened. And on March 13th, we went home. And that's where our WASC TV kind of came to a halt. So then we had to kind of revive it and bring in some up-to-date segments that we could put into our nightly news this fall. So Devin, I'll let you share because you were a big piece of WASC TV, and definitely you got your start in broadcast with WASC TV.
Thank you, Mrs. Alexander.
Okay, so yeah, like Miss Alexander said, we started with an 8-week program, and we divided up WASC into the 8 weeks because we wanted to start early so that kids would know what WASC is before WASC came. I think they were scheduled to come like in the middle of March, so we started 8 weeks before that, and we had 8 different broadcasts. So we had what is WASC, just to name a few, what to expect about WASC, and those kind of things. So each Friday, we would make a news broadcast that the first period class would show, like the first period teacher, and the kids would learn about WASC and what the topic is for that week. So in theory, by the time that the 8 weeks was up, every kid on campus kind of knew what to expect with WASC and what was going to happen. Sadly, we did get stopped with, I believe, 3 weeks left. 3 weeks before WASC came, that's when we went to a distance. So that kind of got all put on the side. So when we found out that WASC was coming back virtually this year, we wanted to kind of bring back WASC TV. So we had, I believe, a 3-week section of news that was in our nightly news, which is our new news broadcast. And me and another Renaissance leader made more videos, just kind of reviving Renaissance and reviving WASC and trying to explain what WASC is and to jog children's memory about what's upcoming and what's going to happen. So it went very well, and we're proud of our WASC TV.
Nicely said, Devin. And folks who are listening and watching, I want you to see that we have on the banner there the Twitter feeds that you can log into. We have the ASB one coming up, and you can see all of the nightly news segments that are on there and catch some of these videos. Is that correct, Devin?
Yeah, so we just finished the WASC up December 2nd. So the videos from, I believe, November 26th and a few weeks before that all have WASC videos in them.
Nice. Thank you, sir. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
The other students that are on here today are from my ASB class.
Oh.
So they weren't necessarily a part of WASC TV, but they were involved in when they met with the WASC chairman. So they had a special meeting with him via Zoom at the beginning of our WASC visit.
Fantastic. Thank you for that clarification, Mrs. Alexander. So what was it like to be on the Zoom and to be asked about your school? And you don't have to tell us any real secrets, but what did it kind of feel like to have these important people who you knew were really inspecting our school very closely ask you questions? Take it away, Angela. I like the blue, by the way, in your bedroom there. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So with the WASC chairman, it was kind of, I don't know, it was a little nerve-wracking having, someone so important ask us all these questions on our school, but it also kind of just felt nice knowing that these people really care about us and just want our school to be as great as it can be, because our school is pretty great. So it was just really nice answering those questions that he had and just being able to give feedback and help our school out even more. So I really enjoyed the meeting that we had with him.
Thank you for sharing that. Sarai or Marjorie?
I was just going to say, I think it's very important right now, especially how it's hard. I like that they were asking us how they believed that us students thought we could better our school and let students feel ready to go back into hybrid, at least during these hard times. Because I know for some students, it's really difficult right now, especially with their mental health. And it's hard for some people. We don't know what's going on in their homes or how they're struggling behind cameras and behind Zoom classes that we don't know what could be going on. So I think it was very nice of us being able to feel safe with somebody asking us how us Shadow Hills are doing.
What a lovely perspective. Thank you so much for sharing that, Marjorie. Sarai, what did you think? What did you feel like when these people were there and you were in the Zoom call and asking you questions about your school?
At first I kind of felt like scared because I don't want to say anything wrong, but I did want to be like honest, because I know there's like room for improvement always. But I wanted to make sure that I highlighted like all the amazing things that Shadow has to offer. The guy that I don't know his name, but the chairman, he was very like welcoming and kind, so I felt like comfortable talking. But I think we did a really good job like highlighting what we needed to like, highlight about our school. It's so awesome. And yeah.
Thank you. That was wonderful to share. Well, he raved about you. The whole committee did. They were very, very impressed. And kids, you realize you're leaving a legacy. Everything that you put in place, this is a lot of hard work, both in the preparation, Devin, from all those videos, and everything that you did with posters and making the communications very clear for families and for all the students, because technically speaking, the committee would have walked on campus and they could have asked any student, what is WASC? And you really conveyed this clearly. So you're leaving a footprint for all of the students coming behind you. And I want to thank you very much for that. Mr. Fajardo, we left off on the areas of focus. So we just discussed here on the PowerPoint. I don't know if you can share your screen, but I can pull mine back up on the areas for focus. We talked about the areas to celebrate. Would you like to pick it up from there, sir?
Sure, absolutely. In fact, I just want to say, if I may, thank you to all of you students. I mean, you know what? Mr. Crosby, who was our visiting chair, did actually make it a point to suggest, man, it's almost as though I actually did visit your campus, because from all of the spirited individuals that we spoke with, it was really easy to kind of see and feel. In fact, two of the WASC people, and you may have shared this already, did make mention, if not all, that if they lived in India, they would totally be sending their children here to Shadow Hills High School. And you guys, that's 7 different committee members from 7 different walks of life, obviously all in public education. So that's a true testament to a lot of you for continuing to carry our banner in such a positive light. That speaks volumes. And for all of you guys as ambassadors of our school, I can't thank you enough. So kudos to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, kiddos. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of put you in the waiting room again. And then you can remove yourselves if you'd like, but whatever you'd like to do. And thank you very much for coming on this evening with us. I know you probably are studying for finals, have a few things to do. Kids did great. You're wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Knights.
Thank you, Mrs. Alexander.
They're such great kids, right?
Such great
We're
kids.
so fortunate to have the best of the best. Right?
And you know, Ms. Hernandez, would you like to speak for just a moment what it was like? Because you were in the classroom at that time when the WASC committee would zoom in.
Yes, I was. So we had, I believe, 2 WASC committee members just jump into our Zoom session. It was easy to identify them when joining, and they showed up in the waiting room. So just letting them in, and they were basically just part of the audience. They were there with the kids, just observing, and then they would make comments in the chat box to the students like, great job, great engagement, I really like what you're doing. So it was, they did not at all interrupt the class at all. They were just there observing, and at the end just left a little comment in the chat box, and that was it. So it was pretty easy, no interruption to instruction at all whatsoever. But it was nice to, when you think about like letting people into the Zoom session, they were easy to identify and no interruption to instruction at all. But it was great.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And Knights Nation, I would like to share with you that Ms. Hernandez is now an assistant principal. So she just put on an administrator hat coming out of the classroom as a highly, highly extraordinary math teacher, our math department chair, leadership team member. And so we're so grateful and lucky to have her as part of our administration team. So we'll go ahead and just finish up on the presentation, if you'd like, Mr. Fajardo, of the WASC. And do you want me to share my screen?
By all means, please.
Okay.
And what I'll end up doing is I'll just go ahead and get started in the interest of everyone's time, and of course, you folks did get a chance to really kind of listen in to the strengths of what the visiting committee did observe, and as an opportunity for us to continuously go through our cycle of improvement, which is something that we consistently preach. In fact, there's a Japanese business model that's known as Kaizen. When I first became a principal here, I kind of threw that term around with most of the team here, if not all of our staff, for the first year. And that was really our focus area in Kaizen, meaning essentially continuous improvement. And it's certainly an area that we've always focused on to ensure that we are eradicating average from every single system in our school. It's not good enough to just simply state that we're going to pretty much rest on our laurels and sort of just use hope as a strategy. Well, we do know that hope oftentimes is not a strategy. It's good to have hope, but certainly not to use as a strategy, because we have to systematically approach and make things, make it a point, I should say, to really improve those systems that we have in place. So one of the things that we looked at, and the visiting committee did recommend to us, was continuously to improve the areas of how we analyze our data. There's a saying out there that reads, you have to inspect what you expect, right? And I remember that in business school. In fact, it so rings true here for us, even in public education, where we look at different multiple ways of how we measure achievement, how we measure excellence. And in this case, one of the recommendations from the committee was to simply continue doing that, afford opportunities for our faculty to look at data, right? To review that data and to analyze that data in order for that to improve student achievement and to improve our system of instruction. So in addition to that, the visiting committee in that same breath also looked at what we're doing with our Tier 1 intervention program. And our Tier 1 intervention program simply means that we're looking at essentially two different areas for improvement, in our case, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, right? So we're looking at data as it reveals itself in the order of academics as well as behavior. So our Tier 1 intervention program, which we glean a lot of the recommendations from our Knight Stewart Wright Committee, and that Knight Stewart Wright Committee affords us an opportunity to look at things like positive behavior intervention school-wide. We started with the elements of looking at how we could sort of leverage the relationships that we have a reputation for, these strong, really reliable relationships with all of our stakeholders, leveraging that and affording an opportunity to continue to review data, but also to entertain an option for us to look at what they consider to be a Tier 2 intervention program. And a Tier 2 intervention program is really for students who, for the most part, are within a 15% sort of umbrella of students that require that additional support or intervention for academics. So looking at our system and identifying an opportunity for us to work with our faculty and support staff in terms of what we can do to integrate a Tier 2 system that is dependent upon data that we review on a consistent basis, and really trying to answer the question, well, what do we do with some of our students who aren't getting it, right, the first time? So one of those things is to develop a system to look at what we could do above and beyond simply what is afforded to students in the classroom, and really bring in an intervention program that looks to provide that support to our students in most need. And in addition to that is looking at how we could potentially also open up communications a lot further with our English language community, right? For those learners that are considered to be English language learners, which we refer to as emerging bilingual students, we want to really provide more opportunities for these students in the order of access and equity. But we can't give access if we don't provide the appropriate levels of support, in which case we want to continue to do just that. Working with our teachers, working with consultant firms, working at building the capacity of our teachers in the classroom to continue to provide that support to our emerging bilingual students. That is definitely an area that we continue to work upon, and also leverage our partnerships and the great opportunities that we have to work with our district. As a member of the committee that's actually putting together our master plan for our English language learners, in addition to being also a member of the equity committee task force at the district office, we're really looking at ways that we can retool our systems of support for all of our at-promise students that include any student that's having trouble, whether the trouble is in academics or whether it's social emotional learning needs that we need to attend to, including also our students with disabilities that we pride ourselves on in terms of being one of the most inclusive schools out here that provides those services and opportunities for our students to be that much more successful in a general education classroom environment. So those are some areas that we looked upon, and we did work with the visiting committee, and now we'll continue working with our faculty and support team in identifying the action steps necessary that will get us to a point of success over the next 5 years for particularly those students in those two particular student groups. So what the committee did also recommend to us that we know that we do have a really strong commitment to is also continuing to build on our strong positive culture of inclusion, including all of our stakeholders, right? Continuing to do these types of webinars for our parent community and the community at large, continuing to also leverage our collaborative team structure where we continue to analyze the data, as I mentioned, to improve our student outcomes, and more importantly, continue to communicate with all of our stakeholders, in all areas in the language of their choice. So certainly this is something that we've done, I think, quite well with our deaf and hard of hearing community, as we provided support there for para-interpreters to provide that support to our DHH students. And we must continue to do that, and more importantly, provide opportunities to submit to our families in whatever language need that they may need. So those are certainly areas that we felt that we could work with our team to implement as we continuously improve, the systems of instruction, our systems of professional development, and more importantly, in this case, our system of intervention for our students. So we're pretty, we're well on our way. And again, it's a plan, right? And it's a 5-year plan that we will work to ensure the success of every one of our students. So thank you for allowing me to share that, Dr. K, this afternoon.
Absolutely, that's wonderful. And that's a perfect segue. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen into one way in which we're asking parents to be an instrumental part of their child's life in preparation for one of our diagnostic tools, iReady, which is new this year, but it has already been seen to be very, open to the students. They like it. It's something to provide immediate feedback, but I'm not going to steal the thunder. I'm going to let Ms. Hernandez speak to this a little bit more, what our iReady assessment is about. And let me know if you can share your screen there, Ms. Hernandez.
Okay, so let's try this out. I believe it is working. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Actually, here it is.
There you go. Yes.
Perfect.
So how about now? Perfect. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Bienvenidos. My name is Ms. Hernandez. Soy la subdirectora de Shadow Hills High School. I'm the assistant principal at Shadow Hills High School. And I'm going to talk to you about iReady. So here at Shadow Hills High School, the purpose of iReady is to provide information to the teachers and staff and the administrative team and parents, including our students, regarding standard mastery in English and in their math courses. So with this program, we're able to track the growth and mastery of each standard that students learn in their English classes and in their math classes. At the same time, this program will allow us as teachers to pinpoint what standards students are struggling in and how to help them improve on those standards for additional support, such as personalized lessons that students can do on their own time, and also lessons that the teachers can do in a smaller group setting with their students. At the same time, the purpose of this assessment from iReady is to help students improve in their essential standards. So throughout high school, teachers are to teach a set of standards that we select as essential standards. And so in order for students to keep moving along, in order for students to show mastery and track their growth so that they are college and career ready, we look at standards each year. So through this new program, teachers can pinpoint Where is it that the student is proficient? Where is it that the student needs that additional support? And where is it that the student has mastered and is ready to keep moving forward? So the beauty of iReady is great, and it helps every single stakeholder, parent, student, teachers, and administrative team work together in helping our students really achieve their goals of standard mastery. Now, when it comes to student support, there's a couple of things that teachers are able to see, and there's a couple of things that students are able to see. So every stakeholder has a different view from this platform. So for student support, once they complete the assessment, it gives the student their current level of mastery within each standard domain. So, and this is for English and math. So I gave you here an example of what it would look like from a teacher perspective and a student perspective. So it tells you here for, and this is from math, for example, in one of the domains, the student is early 9th grade level. But when it comes to geometry, it tells you where the student is for their grade level, and it gives you an overall. Knowing these two pieces of information, the student will be placed on grade 8. And so parents can request this information from their teachers, and we can send that information individually, but this gives you a very great picture of the first assessment. Now, when we look at the bottom left, the image that I have here for you, let me see if I want to try something. Okay, it didn't work, but on the left picture, it gives you the standards that they can do, and it also gives you the standards that they need to work on. And in each of those standards that they can work on to improve, it gives the students and the teachers the personalized lessons and how to move forward in improving for that specific standard. So it gives a different lens for each stakeholder that is looking at this, so we can help the student improve. Now, when it comes to the important information, we take this assessment 3 times in the school year. So being that it's our first year, we took it back in September. We're going to take it in the winter, which is coming up in January, and we will take it again in April, which is our spring time. Taking it 3 times will allow the teacher, the student, all stakeholders to see the growth of students, and it will also allow them to see, okay, what it is that they need to focus on, what specific standards, so we can keep working together in all parts to help the students succeed. So the one that's coming up recently is January 4th through January 29th. So we're going to be comparing this data to the data we collected from September. Our goal is to see our students improve and to see them growing in the standards that they needed support in. So how can you help us as parents is making sure that you talk to them about the importance of what it means to show growth. We're not looking for perfection. We support our teachers in looking at growth. What is it that the student needs help in, and how can we help them grow? So making sure that the student is present during this time frame in their Zoom session so that we can provide the support and be able to help them in case they come with a stopping point when they're taking the assessment, and talking to them about the importance of taking the assessment seriously, because it is going to help us track them throughout the entire 4 years of their high school time there, and it'll help us track when it comes to CASP, looking at how much did they grow, what is it that they still need support on, how can we still continue to help our students succeed so that they are college and career ready when it comes to their 12th grade year. This assessment will only be taking place with the teachers, and it will be taking during the school day. Now, this is the next one that will take place will be April 5th. So the more we take it, the more data we have to compare and show the growth of how students are improving. And if you need any support or have additional questions from this, we will gladly help you and talk with you and work things out so that you better understand the purpose of iReady. But overall, the data that it gives you is outstanding. I mean, in Math 1, in the math department, we do standard space. So when we teach to our essential standards, we can track through this platform how much they've grown, or where are they in that specific standard, what it is that we can still do to help them reach that grade level curriculum, right? And so in English, you can also look at where they're at with any kind of skill and standard that they are focusing on. And to us as teachers, That's great information. We've been looking for something like this to happen. And now that we have it, I mean, it just says a lot about what we can do. And I hope that just moving forward, it just gets better. And I know it will, but definitely know that we are here to support you in any of this. We know our students are really engaged in it. We have students wanting to know, well, what does this score mean? Well, what can I do to get better? And what's nice is that these personalized lessons that students receive, it's on their own time. It doesn't have to take place during class time. It could be taking during their asynchronous time. It could be down in the afternoon or the evening. It's to their accommodation, to their liking when they take these lessons. But we're here to help. I'm happy to help, and let me know. Thank you.
That was a terrific overview, Ms. Hernandez. Thank you so much. And I'm glad you mentioned that last part. This is the ultimate formative assessment because it's non-threatening for the students. They, like you said, they want to know, how did I do? It's an engaging assessment. It's not that boring. It's really something, oh my gosh, I got that one right. And they can feel it and they want to go on to the next one. Or that was a little bit challenging, but this next one I know I've got. And it's that mindset that really motivates them to want to stay engaged. And parents, just ask your kids about this. Have you heard about this iReady? Oh yeah, mom, dad. So the secret's out. And again, that third assessment in April, we'll really be able to glean some data that's going to tell us and inform us what we need to do next. And then that supports our big summative, which is our CASP. And more on that later in another Knight's Parent University, Mr. Fajardo. But Ms. Hernandez, that was great. Thank you.
And if I may, and thank you so much for that, Ms. Hernandez. And Dr. K, you hit it right on the nose. I think just for the benefit of our parent community that's watching or any community out there, the purpose of formative assessment is to really monitor student learning and provide that ongoing feedback to both our staff as well as our students. And, that's an assessment that we utilize for learning. And so the goal of what Dr. K was mentioning, like the CASP, which is our big SBAC exam, for example, is more of a summative assessment, which is really to evaluate student learning at the end of the instructional, well, in this case, our instructional year. There's also other forms of summative assessments that we utilize that we use as a benchmark, standardized benchmark in some cases. But it's really for us to utilize in the formative assessment environment, in this case, in iReady assessment, to really help to drive instruction because it's telling us where we need to go. And it's individualized because our students do receive that feedback based on how they perform on these assessments. And the personalized, learning path affords them that opportunity to work on it, as Ms. Hernandez had indicated, on their own time or during asynchronous time as assigned by their teachers. So we're really excited about it, and we want to thank Desert Sands for making that investment, in our schools, affording us with that technology and the opportunity to, again, hone in on those particular learning domains that we need to focus on so we can see achievement obviously grow up and celebrate that growth accordingly. So thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We're now parent community into our third piece of this evening, our third segment. And Ms. Hernandez, if you need to stay on or can, that'd be great. If not, we know you have family commitments and want to thank you. And speaking of families, we want to start this next segment, which is going to be discussing the preparation for transition to our hybrid learning by saying, families, that our thoughts and prayers are with every single one of you for the challenges and the hardships and maybe some of the small wins of people recovering from this incredibly challenging and devastating disease that is COVID. So we're thinking of you. We know learning goes on. We know, however, that you're struggling. And we're here for you. And you're looking at your administration team and Mr. Wells as well. We're here for you. You can call us. You can email us if there are any circumstances as we're closing out this semester where you need us to communicate on your behalf. Please do reach out and know that you can feel safe in that, and we will keep your confidences. But we're thinking of you with love and prayers and hope. Yeah. So with that, it's not a strategy, right? We have to have a plan in place. That's what hope is. And so what we have here, and I can just pull mine up, Mr. Fajardo, and he put this together. It's really quite extraordinary. We shared this with our teachers. This is our PowerPoint that explains our preparing for transition to our hybrid learning. So I'm going to go ahead and Get started. This is the nuts and bolts. So we're going to talk about everything from, physically how to prepare your child to kind of the emotional piece, but that, if you notice your child is sick, that you would not send them to school. It's antithetical to what we used to say. Oh, they got a little sniffle, send them to school. Back in my day, oh, you got a sniffle, too bad. It's not that way anymore. If they have a sniffle, they can stay home, especially if they have a temperature that goes along with that. So again, what I'm going to speak to here are the safety measures for if, in fact, when we do return to hybrid. And correct me if I am wrong, Mr. Fardo, but we are slated, unless things change, for January 19th. Correct, sir?
Yeah, that's correct. And if I may, Dr. K, and I realize that, this comes at a very unusual time, and we've kind of provided some information to you folks in our Monday dispatches, leading up to this more comprehensive presentation. And again, it's just a plan, ladies and gentlemen. There is no definitive that we will actually, go back into a hybrid learning environment, come the 19th, although our school board did decide that was a date to consider. Clearly, we are waiting on updates from the county public health. And as we all know that, the numbers continue to rise. And so this is just simply a plan. There is no definitive that we will be moving into that direction. And if we do, then you'll be the first to know, because we will definitely keep all of you in the loop as this information does come our way. And this presentation will make it available on the website. So this way we don't bore you and read the whole thing to you, but we'll just kind of highlight some of the more salient points for you.
Absolutely.
So this way we can kind of walk you through it. So Dr. K, yes.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for saying those words. I felt very comforted when I saw this as a plan, because you never know what could change.
That's
and so it's good to have those plans in place. Kids are still going to be coming to school on buses. We're going to be ready for that. And then here's one of our newest. I'm just going to reach down and put on my own mask that Mr. Fajardo purchased for our school. And I love this because it comes all the way from the nose, all the way under. And this is, everybody's going to be asked to wear masks. And we have lots of masks in case somebody forgot something, a student forgot one. We have fresh, and everything's safe for students. We'll have safety protocols. Okay, and all of our staff, by the way, they've had heavy training, as we talked about professional development, also in terms of safety and health. So you can feel safe knowing your teachers know how to have safety protocols in the classroom between social distancing, the face coverings, as I just showed you, and hand washing. I've never washed my hands so many times in my whole life. I actually have to have my lotion on my desk with me.
Right?
Yes, it's incredible, but that's what we do. And our restrooms are sanitized constantly. We will be having guidelines for how in which students will enter restrooms, exit, the amount of time they have to sing their little ABCs while they do their hand washing. And then, of course, masks are required at all times on campus. Okay, and we have signs. This is a particularly important slide, the safety protocols of going up and down the stairways. Now, of course, we would be in a hybrid, so it would be a smaller cohort of students. And at this point, we're looking at approximately 700 students at a time on campus. So, cut in half, at least less than, of the number of students we normally would have. So that lends itself nicely to being able to have kind of a directional two-way traffic. Students can just go up one way and down another stairwell, which keeps it safe as well. We will have elevators that will only be operated by keys, so no students in elevators, and only 2 per elevator as needed. Limiting sharing of supplies between students to the extent that's possible. Again, signs, and be healthy, be clean and disinfect, social distance, pickup and delivery, and then our physical facility. So there's been lots and lots of time put in to creating signs. I have signs on my door. Everybody has a sign. It's just a gentle reminder for us to be able to be cognizant of people's space, what we need to do to keep our offices and our classrooms safe and healthy and sanitized. And this is just an overview. And again, as Mr. Fajardo said, this will be on the school's website. You can also, again, tune in to the YouTube. I know I speak rather quickly, but you can see some of these things. And this is a nice schematic of what it means as students or staff who exhibit any sorts of symptoms, the action then that is taken, and what communication is necessary to make sure everybody is in the loop on what we're doing with an individual or a situation, a student or staff member who may exhibit some symptoms. Again, these are safety protocols, guidance on school closure. On campus and in the classroom, we have our space of our desks, and they're allocated so that students are 6 feet away from one another, facing the same direction. Teachers have plexiglass barriers so that they are not in direct contact with the students. Social distancing will be practiced with staff as well. There's no congregating in areas. And then, as we stated, transportation, we will be working closely with Sunline. We've already had much communication with them. So as information is rolled out, we'll continue to communicate about transportation for your children. We're really going to try to focus on siblings would be in the same cohort, and then, of course, riding transportation at that same time. So keeping families together, keeping our Knights families together. And then we have our nutrition services. This is a very important slide, so I'm going to really spend a moment on here. In our learning mode, we're going to have grab and go meals. They're going to continue to be made available for parent pickup. When attending school in the hybrid mono, students will be served individual packaged meals. So upon arrival, they will be provided a breakfast. That's going to be a grab and go. And then at dismissal time, they will also receive a grab and go lunch that will be provided to the students. And if they need anything in between, we always have extra, and they can reach out to anybody in the office and we can run something over if a student's in need. We will have staggered release times at dismissal. That may occur. We're going to try to keep that staggered, certainly in groups, so that not all students are going to a bus at once, for example. And then here's just kind of an overview, and feel free to jump in if you want to, Ms. Fardo, but this is a good color-coded model of how our cohorts are going to look. It's based on the selections made by the families who opted to remain in distance learning, and the families that did not make selection during that online registration. You're placed in distance hybrid learning. However, ongoing communication continues. So just know that. Please feel safe in knowing that. If something changed all of a sudden, you can always reach out to your school. And then we have students who are either in a cohort A, they're a purple group, our cohort B, and we're going to balance to ensure that we don't exceed any of the maximum occupancy in each classroom. We will not be able to honor requests for switching student cohorts, with the exception, as I mentioned earlier, of siblings, in case we missed somebody, so that they would be together as a cohort. Our
and if I may, just on that schedule, Dr. K, if I may, yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
Oh, no, please do.
For the benefit of families knowing that you could see on Wednesday, everybody does remain in a distance learning environment during those Wednesdays. So you could see that cohort A comes Mondays and Tuesdays, obviously in person if they're choosing the hybrid model. Cohort B, on the other hand, then you could see they do come in Thursday and Friday. And so we just wanted to make sure that we point that out accordingly.
Very important. Yeah, that's our deep clean day, and that's necessary. So thank you so much.
You bet.
Staffing wise too, our administrative team has been in consultation with counseling. We're working on determining our teacher staffing needs, and of course with much support from the district, we're so grateful. And we have an amazing, in this Desert Sands has an amazing group of guest teachers. Those are our subs, the old fashioned term is a substitute teacher, but a very highly skilled pool of guest teachers who are going to be supporting our staff in making sure that we have the right numbers of staff to meet those needs of our cohorts and our students. We're in the process of reviewing master schedule. We don't have room to do many changes of anything of that nature, but we are reviewing to, again, make sure that our cohorts and our students are supported in having the right classes as we matriculate into the next semester. And here again is kind of a sample schedule. I'm not going to read it out to you, but please do note the Wednesday, how we have, and that's at home. That's at home. And the teacher work date remains the same, 7:40 to 2:40. And we are meeting the instructional minutes as outlined by the state of California.
Correct.
And oh, tech needs. So Ms. Hernandez, feel free to jump in on our experiment with this. This was actually quite a fun afternoon.
Yes, it was. Thank you, Dr. K. So in regards to tech needs, each teacher is going to receive an LFD in their classroom. It's a touch screen. It's also a computer, a small computer will be embedded so that teachers can use in the classroom. They're also going to be receiving all the equipment necessary to connect the LFD to a tablet and to the internet and everything that is needed. In addition, each teacher already was given a web camera that they can use on their desktop. And in addition, each teacher will also be receiving a second monitor. So with this whole new experience that we're all in, we ended up realizing that having two monitors is key, because in one you can see all of your students, and then in the other screen you can share the lesson and do the lesson live with the kids during your Zoom sessions. So each teacher is going to have everything that is needed technology-wise in their classroom to run the hybrid classes, where they will be in the classroom and they'll be able to stream the Zoom sessions from there, so that the students that are at home for cohort B, let's say, and cohort A being on campus, so that everyone is working together and students are able to learn. In addition, what we did a little trial run of how this would look like with a couple of staff and the admin team in the classroom. And it was a great way to troubleshoot potential problems and how do we fix it for teachers who have this idea, or teachers who have this idea of online instruction from the classroom. So it was great having multiple perspectives in the classroom, of course, within the limits of social distancing and everything that we needed to do. But we're excited. We have what we need to provide our teachers with the support in technology. Each teacher will also have their own tablet. So it's a really great way just to practice and learn, and to really help support our students that are at home when learning, so that when that Wednesday comes and it's everyone's at home, we have everything we need on campus. So I'm just really excited to see this in action, and just how we can help continue our success and help our growth and how to support our students.
Right. Well said. Thank you so much. There is an excitement to that. You know, of course, the circumstances don't necessitate that we're happy, but there's an excitement and enthusiasm about the fact that now we have a technology, and we're never going to go backwards, families. Regardless of what occurs, we have tech, and people now understand the significance, and it's an exciting time. If there's ever a little silver lining, right, we look for those.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Well said. And speaking of that, we can have all the tech in the world. If you can't connect, then what the heck? Well, the district has thought of everything, and we're so grateful for that. The Wi-Fi connectivity is capable of supporting the full streaming of video content. So in fact, they were on campus this afternoon, Mr. Pardo, over in our whichever buildings, 3 buildings on campus, and they were upping the connectivity, and they're constantly working on that and making sure that it's ready and it's in place. So you know more about that tech kind of world, like with WANs and IDF and GB and all that stuff. But suffice it to say that we'll be ready. Okay.
That is correct.
And so a member of our Knights Tech team, like we talked about, Ms. Hernandez said, we had this mock experience in the classroom. My greatest takeaway, because I wear not only a mask, but I wear a shield at times too, or 2 masks, was that I needed water. So parents, here's a takeaway for you. Have your child make sure they bring their own water with them, because occasionally they're going to have to sip, because it does get a little bit warm behind the mask and they get thirsty. Okay, there's not much for Q&A, but if you have, because we didn't open up that as a possibility, please reach out to Mr. Fajardo, myself, Ms. Hernandez, Mr. Wells, about any of the questions about the potential for when we do transition to our hybrid and model, and know we're ready for you.
Yeah,
Definitely. Right. And I just want to take the time and say thank you, Dr. K. Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And of course, our other panelists that were on just a moment ago. It's a really neat thing as a principal of our school to kind of see and feel, everybody coming together to provide the level of support that everybody has. And so I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of our parent community out there, all of our stakeholders included, and just say thank you for making this such a great, making this challenge, I think, such a great opportunity for us to sort of approach learning in a different way. I think that's the biggest takeaway from us, from this experience, for this experience, I should say. And just wanted to say thank you for all of you for having your patience, being flexible with us as we continue to learn and sort of build the plane and fly at the same time, so to speak, right? And I think it's good. We've kept it at 30,000 feet and we haven't had any falls. No knock on wood on that one. So just wanted to say thank you, and on all of our behalf, wishing you the best of happy holidays, and we look forward to 2021 as the year rolls around for us, right? And we look forward to seeing you guys all again come January. Have a great rest of your week, and thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.